Previously on JSpeaks.
Even having a conversation that people have options is not on the table. And so I think we have resources, but not enough resources to help people navigate the choice and what they want to do with their care, particularly when they're going through pregnancy and postpartum.
Now, through your organization, have you seen, resources being more accepted through the community?
I think yes. I think what we do with us providing the education, and not education saying that people are uneducated, but our education style is making sure that people know that these resources exist. Because a lot of times, the resources that are set up through government programs are very restrictive. It doesn't mean that someone who is in the upper working class or middle class doesn't need help and support services, because they equally need help. I like to tell people that a lot of these households are one flat tire away or one financial disaster away from being placed in poverty.
Learn more today about mobilizing African American women through empowerment.
Hello, everyone. For those of you who are new to my channel, welcome. And for those of you who are subscribed to JSpeaks, thank you so much and welcome back. As you know, it is my mission, it is my passion to bring to you all conversation topics that are positive, motivational, educational, and informational. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so proud to introduce you all to Joy Long. Joy earned her master's degree in clinical mental health counseling and is now a licensed clinical mental health counselor and holistic psychotherapist. She utilizes a collaborative, wholeness-centered approach to support her clients as they heal, grow, practice self-acceptance, and learn tools for resiliency. It is Joy's intention to create a liberating and healing space where people can learn how to find their authentic self, inner resources, and step into their power. Please sit back, and you know what? Come follow me. And I hope today's episode serves as a catalyst to our wholeness journey. So Joy, it's definitely a pleasure to be here. I'm so happy to be with you finally. I've been looking forward to this interview for a while now. But before we get started, please, talk to me, talk to the camera. Who is Joy Long? And, you know, please share a few words about your company, your brand, Whole with Joy. Please.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for this opportunity. I'm excited to be here and to talk about what it means to create a culture of love and of healthy relationships. We're in the month of February. It's Love Month. Yesterday was Valentine's, so I was like, this just seems right. But when it comes to me, I always find this question to to be a lot. I am many things, but largely, I am a person who wants to see humanity win. I want to, and I believe in our capacity to do that. I want to see us be able to dig deep and to face the issues, the darkness that are at their roots that keep us in cycles of suffering and that ultimately keep us disconnected from one another. And so I want to see us learn how to transform those things to be connecting with greater harmony, greater joy, greater peace. So largely, I would say that's like who I am. I would love to see that type of healing and love and connection in the world. I am also a writer. I am a mother. I like to say I'm a mother first and foremost. I'm a mother, I'm a writer, visionary, and I'm also a holistic psychotherapist. That's why I'm here today. And even when it comes to my work of being a therapist, I'm compelled, I'm very compassionate about the transformative Power of love and human connection. I have 15 years working in mental health. I have worked in community mental health. I've worked in medical settings, and I've also have been in private practice for going on 6 years. I am really passionate about trauma and attachment healing, grief work, spiritual liberation, collective healing, and something called earth-based healing as well. When it comes to whole with joy, that's a whole, like anything else is an evolution. It's been quite a journey. I essentially discovered a calling. Like I felt like I was called to this field, like into the mental health field, during the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. I remember sitting in my dorm room, just sitting in a state of just paralysis, of helplessness, of anger, of heartbrokenness, of just pain, of like what I was witnessing, to see the faces of despair, the dehumanization, the neglect, the abandonment of people, and to see how these spirits were in these bodies, these, our human kin, but especially, Black and brown and poor folks, the way that they were left behind and impacted, and really just abused, right? Like by the system. I felt this calling to pursue a path that would allow me to work with the unique needs of the unique mental health and spiritual needs of Black, brown, indigenous, marginalized communities. And so went into this field. I started a path that will allow me to do that. Then I had my own personal hurricanes of pain and heartbreak and unhealthy relationships and different traumatic histories and issues. And so those things definitely shaped how I show up in my work. And during my journey, I had learned that the personal is political and the political is personal. A lot of the things that show up in how we have learned to treat each other, a lot of it we have learned, right? Like some of the exploitation, the violence towards one another, the overall separation, so much of like what happens on a collective level, we internalize and we do to one another. And so I was just tracking all of that in my healing journey, and all those things have shaped Whole with Joy. So Whole with Joy is about revolution. It's about revolution of the mind, the body, the spirit. It's also about evolution, and it's about the healing possibility and being able to embrace our light in our dark, our joy in our pain. Like when we're able to do that, it can be transcendental and it can deeply heal us. So that's what Whole with Joy is about as well.
Well, thank you for that very no, seriously detailed introduction. I appreciate you giving so much detail and so much context. But diving into one of your passions and that you talked about, attachment theory, trauma bonding, healing, and love. The importance of love. What for the viewers, what is exactly attachment theory? And more importantly, well, not more importantly, but equally important, what are the criticisms and misconceptions of attachment theory that you've come across in your research and your practice?
Yeah. So I would say that I came into the awareness of attachment theory at a really critical time. It was 2020. I was going through a major breakup, a divorce, and I had a 2-year-old. And it was happening at the same time. I'm so grateful for it happening at the same time that I was going through a training in somatics and attachments based course for a therapist. And I also was deeply supported and received mentoring and guidance around attachment from one of my colleagues, friends, mentors, named Dr. Amy Bauman. So definitely have to give her a shout out. And they that time was deeply life-changing because it allowed me to, one of the things that was really important for me as I was going through that training was like, whoa, like as I'm coming out of this divorce, I have a lot of pain. And how do I take care of myself in ways where I'm not transmitting this pain, giving this pain to my daughter, and she could find herself like in the same type of relationships, in the same type of space that I was in. And so it was one of the things that had helped me really shift my course and has aided my healing, attachment theory, just the foundational pieces of it. So it's something I'm, really passionate about because I know just the power in it. But when it comes to attachment theory in itself, it was basically put on the map by this British psychotherapist or psychologist, more so, this developmental psychologist named Dr. John Bowlby in 1958. And it was like from his research where he had found that infants have this innate need, right? Like they're biologically wired, like they're like we come into this world with these neural structures in our brain where we are looking for the caregivers, like an attachment figure in our environments, and our ability to be able to receive responsive soothing care from an adult, from a caregiver, from our mother, is the thing that will support our ability to thrive and to just to survive. And so it's a theory that talks about the power of human connection, the science of human connection, and how we all have this innate, hardwired, right, like biological need to be able to, that supports our ability as a species to evolve, to be able to attach to, someone in our environments, when we're infants. And then that's something that we continue to need as we develop and get into adulthood.
So far, today's conversation has been nothing short from great. I've enjoyed learning more about joy and whole with joy, and I hope you are too. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And now for a short, brief announcement.
Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Here at Coleman Tax Service, your business is always confidential and only shared with the IRS. At Coleman Tax Service, you can communicate and discuss your income and allowances, whether it is government assistance or unemployment. At Coleman Tax Service, we are here to keep you in compliance with the IRS. So when do people typically can someone outgrow attachment?
No, and attachment is something that we all need. It is something that, again, like our brains have adapted in a way of where if we don't have, someone that so one of the central themes of John Bowlby's theory was that when an infant is able to receive responsive, soothing, caring connection, a bond, like be able to form that emotional bond with their caregiver. And John Bowlby really focused a lot on the child and the mother bond. But essentially, and I can talk more when it comes to the criticisms, a child ability to form an attachment, emotional bonds with any secure and available and present adult is enough to help nurture them and to support their ability to develop and to thrive. But he definitely focused on the mother and the child bond. So I'm trying to remember your question. But yeah, so we all have this innate need to receive that type of connection for our survival. And as we continue to develop, it is something that we still will need from our friends, from loved ones, from our romantic relationships. We have these neurostructures that are built in to seek and look for it. And that's the thing that, again, supports our ability to really to exist, to be where we are.
So you said, correct me if I'm wrong, you said that we all need attachment. I feel as though attachment has a negative connotation to it. I don't feel as though, I feel as like, oh, I'm attached to this. It feels like this is against my will. Are you sure it's not we all need relationships or we all need bonds,
We
or do
all,
we really all need
yeah,
attachment?
we don't have to be so attached to the word attachment, right? Like,
Okay, so
yeah.
when you say attachment, you mean bonds.
Yes, we need someone, we need each other, we need a person in our lives we need relationships, we need communities to help us survive.
Okay,
Yes.
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 So
Thank you for clarifying.
yeah,
Yeah.
so not living in a vacuum. So we need each other.
We need each other.
So what are the misconceptions? What
Yeah, so some of the criticisms when it comes to attachment theory is, for one, just like his research didn't take into account some of the cultural reasons of how it shapes attachment, like someone's ability, like a parent's ability to be that present, responsive, soothing caregiver. It didn't really give any context of like what are the things that shape that and that can get in the way of that process, right? Because to your point, one of your questions, like, do we actually need that? We come into this world with those innate needs, right? Like, we're designed that way when it comes to the biology of our bodies, and yet there's plenty of people who are unable to receive that type of care from their parents. It's like, one of the things I really like about attachment theory, to just have that in your consciousness, is one of those things where you can really ask yourself, well, if the science is this, then what is happening? What is getting in the way of like my ability or someone else's ability to be that present, caring, nurturing caregiver, mother, parent, sometimes teacher, or whatever it may be, to this child, to this infant? Like, what has happened that has disrupted that? And that's when you can look at some of the environmental or the cultural conditions that get in the way of that person's ability to be with that child. And in his research, there was a lack of giving that type of context. So like, that's one of the criticisms. Another criticism is like, you can't, like, we can't use just one theory to explain human behavior and why humans and how humans interact with other people, right? Like, one theory it just can't, that's really, that's like reductionist, right? Like, one theory can't explain why we do what we do, because we're such complex, mysterious, beings. And so that's another thing. Also, he really focused on the mother and child bond, and a lot of researchers have just questioned, like, well, a lot of African and indigenous societies and communities, even now, like, there's grandmama, there's auntie, there's cousins, there's this whole like kinship systems and multiple figures that are in a child's life that can help nurture that child, right? Like, these children are raised in villages, and so how could that potentially support and aid the research and attachment? And so those are some of the like criticisms. And then, like, when it comes to the times that we're living in popular culture, there has been more of this, from what I've seen, like online, this awareness of, yeah, we're talking about attachment, we're talking about relationships, we're talking about trauma bonding, we're talking about all these things. And what I have noticed is it's so easy to be like, oh, that person over there is avoidant, that person over there is like anxious. And we put these labels on people. And for one, people, like, no one is, people, we are complex. And so no one can be reduced down to just one label again. And you're doing so much of like the finger pointing and saying that person's avoidant, that person is, anxious, or whatever it may be, where I believe attachment theory is a gateway to love, because it can be a map to help you look at yourself and for you to learn about yourself, of like, oh, I'm noticing I have these patterns and these tendencies that are associated with this particular category, which we will talk about. And, what are the things within me that need love, that need care, that need healing? And so when we're looking at the other person and not looking at ourselves, we do everyone a disservice. But attachment theory can be a map and a gateway to self-love, helping you understand how and why you show up in relationships. And also, it can be a map to, yes, give you better discernment and understanding of how other people may interact with you. And it also can be a map for something we don't talk, I believe, enough about, with using this as a support to help teachers, coaches, again, those people in children's lives, to help them understand the importance of they're nurturing their love in a child's life, right? Like when I have a 6-year-old and when my 6-year-old goes to school, I look at her teachers as, co-parents, right? Like they're part of the village. And the way that they show up, the way that they're able to be present in her life and like pour into her, it does impact her ability to feel secure and to feel well within herself. And so it takes all of us to nurture ourselves to the next level when it comes to evolution, when it comes to, again, that harmony and that connection I was talking about.
Wow. So you talked about this briefly in your response. You brought up different types of attachments. And I just want to, just attack that question head on. What are the different types of attachment styles? I know that, there are multiple out there, I believe 4. I know that we're not held to just one and we can be multiple at the same time. Do you mind going into the different types of attachment and just speaking on, the characteristics of each type?
Yeah. So one of John Bowlby's students, Mary Ainsworth, in the 1970s had expanded this theory through her laboratory study called the strain situation. And so essentially, in a lab, mother, child were in the lab with a stranger. And what she was tracking was like, how does the child react to the mom when the mom is in the room and when she leaves the room, especially of course with the stranger being there. So just giving a little bit of context to these categories. And so also want to highlight, well, I guess going into it, I can just break it down with secure attachment. So through this study, through this strain situation, what she and her researchers were able to find, and this is research that continues to, like, from my understanding, be replicated in different countries, is very valid in its findings, right? It's something that is still remains very, what is the word I'm looking for? Just I don't know, but it's a core, right? Like it's something very strong and it has not wavered regarding some of the research. But what they have found is there are 4 types of attachment. So the very first type of attachment that's based off of how the parents are showing up with their children, essentially, right? And so the parenting styles and how they influence the brain, and how it basically shapes the attachment system. And so what they have found is with infants who, when the mother returned into this lab and the infant had exhibited behaviors that looked secure, where they were responsive and they were able to engage with the parents, that this child had secure attachment, and that children that have secure attachment are, they have found that like our early childhood attachment systems are the things that basically superimpose how we attach to others when we become adults, right? And so like that's the early template. And so for secure, the parenting style is able to be present, able to offer the soothing to the child, able to offer that emotional regulation, help a child be able to organize their emotions. They are just present. Like I think about my 6-year-old, she has a lot of like, look at me and play with me and be with me. And it's a parent that can meet those needs in that way. And so a child that grows up to have secure attachment is able to feel confident enough to explore the world around them because they have this, according to the theory, this internal base that is solid, right? Where it's solid, it feels secure, where they can go out and explore the world. They can explore to play, to engage with other people. And they have this internal working model that basically says, I am loved and I feel safe and I have a trust in self and I can trust the world. The other attachment styles, the other categories are categories based in insecure attachment. And so the very first one is, I'm gonna go with the anxious, ambivalent, preoccupied. That has changed over the years. And so essentially that type of parenting that influences and shapes that type of attachment style is parenting that has been inconsistent parenting styles that are intrusive, parenting styles that are hot and cold. And so what that child grows up learning about the world is I have to work really hard at getting care and attention. Like I'm not getting my needs met. And so oftentimes folks who grow up with that style are described as being like clingy and needy and often looking out to receive regulation and soothing from other sources versus being able to generate that from within. So the internal working model for folks who have an anxious, ambivalent attachment style is there's something like wrong with me. I'm not worthy. I don't have a trust of self. There's this higher trust in other people. Like there is this preoccupation centering other people outside of them. So that is the anxious attachment style. So the very next one is avoidant. And so when it comes to someone that has more avoidant attachment patterns, this person received parenting that was dismissing, where they had learned that I can't depend on my parent. They're too checked out for whatever reason. They don't have the capacity to be there. This infant, this child learns that I can't receive what I need from my caregiver. So therefore they adapt it by becoming self-reliant. Like only I can take care of myself. Only I can meet my emotional needs. And as someone with that attachment style, as they get older, that internal working model is I have a lot of trust in self, but not a lot of trust for the outside world, for other people.
Now, do you think that that's contradicting?
Tell me more.
To say avoidant attachment, how could you be attached to something that you're actively trying to avoid?
I love that question. The avoidance strategy is an adaptation to the environment, right? That's the survival strategy. And oftentimes this is done like on an unconscious level, right? It's like, oh, well, because we all have that innate need, right? Like we all have that biological need to receive that type of care, the soothing, the comfort from our caregivers. And so there is this unconscious need, right? This primal need for that type of connection. But the environments, the nurturing, right? You think of nature versus nurture. The nurturing has shown that isn't safe, that's not reliable. And so then therefore you adapt to be able to survive, right? The environment that you're in by learning how to regulate your emotions yourself, learning how to be self-reliant, learning how to take care of yourself in many different ways, not only just with your emotions. Even though, the literature will say that there's a lot of different studies that will show that folks who have this attachment style have a desire for that bonds, for that connection. But it's you have to work with the survival strategies that they developed and the defense mechanisms that they developed because of the environment that they were in as children. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes more sense. And is there?
And I would love for you to, if I need to clarify anything.
Oh, no.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Okay, and then the very last one is the disorganized attachment pattern or style. Sometimes people say just, there's patterns, there's styles, but disorganized. And essentially that is someone that had learned as a child that my parent was really scary. My parent was maybe even abusive. Like my parents exhibited abusive behaviors, right?
So it's more so on the abuse part.
So there was probably a history of abuse, neglect, but learn that my parent is scary to be around.
So scary and abuse. So for anxious, isn't neglect a part of anxious too?
I would imagine there's aspects in that as well.
Mm-hmm. But disorganized is just emphasis on
parent being scary.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a drunk.
Yeah.
Loud. Got it.
Yeah. And with disorganized attachment style, what you typically see is a person that has learned that love is scary, right? Like, and biologically, which I think is really fascinating, when a child's brain is being developed under those conditions, there are two systems, there are two structures that are being stimulated. There's the limbic system that is going out like that. We are mammals at the end of the day, and so our limbic system is wired. Like it's part of one of the structures that is part of the drive for connection and that need for connection. And so in the limbic structure, this need for the parent and the environment. So the child is going out seeking the soothing from the parents and realizing, right, from their experiences that this parent is scary. And so then therefore it also triggers the fight or flight system. And so both things, like I want to connect and it's scary, so I need to flee, are being triggered. And so the child has this really intense neural structures and experiences happening within their bodies that basically is described as fear without resolution. And so when a child has that type of fear and those type of chemicals running through their body, they go into more of this collapsed state and often disassociate to deal with some of the trauma that they're dealing with. So they grow and develop to have unresolved trauma, and their internal working model is, I can't trust myself, I don't love myself, and I also can't trust the world. It's hard to trust love because I have learned that love is scary.
Interesting. So, is there a spectrum? So, of course, secure attachment is green, the best, because you said the other three are just all forms of insecurity.
Yeah.
Is there like a worst out of the three insecure types of attachment, or?
I wouldn't say, I wouldn't put a label on any of them. I mean, ideally, you would like to be able to work towards feeling more secure, in your system and in your body. And they say that, there's this book that I'm going to offer as just like a resource, but the book is attached, right? And so according to some of the research that is offered in the attached book, that they say over 50% of, the population is secure, like it's securely attached. They say that 20% has the anxious ambivalent attachment style, and that the avoidant attachment has 25%, and that the disorganized is a really small subgroup of the population of 3 to 5% of the population that has that attachment style.
Hi, if you made it this far into the episode, thank you so much for watching. I hope so far you've enjoyed learning more about attachment theory, trauma bonding, healing, and love. And I hope you're looking forward to learning more about those topics later in today's episode. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you at the end of this episode.
Sit tight. We will be right back.
Alberta's Home Place, Re-Indigenizing Motherhood, an eco-village for Black and Indigenous single mothers and their children, centering healing, strengthening the mother and child bond, and reconnecting with the land. To learn more about our community and how to help us grow, visit us at albertasplace.love.
So, are there any pros and cons to early attachment? I know that you said that attachment really starts with the mother and the child. I guess because the mother is, of course, birthing the child. Can you be attached too early? Is attachment immediate? Like the second that a baby's eyes open up, they see the mom. Is it like that?
I mean,
Almost like a puppy, like when a puppy looks at their owner for the
I
first
think that's a great example of like we are mammals, and so when you do, like, I love looking at the different like animal documentaries, especially with my daughter, and I remember just even having her and just that immediate our bodies like joining, and there was like these magnets that come together, and that's another beautiful thing about the bonding experience. Essentially secure attachment, a child that receives secure attachment receives the co-regulation. And so for us as adults to be able to self-regulate and to be able to take care of our emotions and come back through some of the ways that I named, we needed to have had the experience of the co-regulation, right? From our parents, from our caregivers. And but in that process of those two bodies coming together, there is this bi-directional interaction, right? Like not only is the baby getting soothed, right? And research has shown this, right? There's this this psychologist named Alan Shore that talked about or has written about, and I can also share that as a resource. But when the mother and the child comes together, both are benefiting. Right? Like there's the hormones that are pumping through the body, the serotonin, the oxytocin, and there's other chemicals that are at play. Those are some big ones when it comes to the relaxation and the ability to be soothed and to come back. But it's something that supports not only the baby but also the mother. And again, in a world that can often be so unpredictable and scary and have so much going on, to be able to have, at least one person that we can find that level of safety in, it helps ensure our ability to survive. And so it is an evolutionary like aspect to who we are as humans, which is also mammals. But yeah, it definitely like works in the way that you're thinking.
So I'm sure if it sounds like the forms of insecure types of attachment um, are out of the control of the person who is deemed having an insecure, a version of insecure attachment. Um, is there anyone who falls in those insecure buckets, those types of attachments, that how could they work towards secure attachment, or how could they work? Does childhood play such a significant role that, if this type of treatment happened to you early at your age, you'll always be scarred somehow, some way? Or could someone with practice, consistency, discipline in some way work towards?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I think that's like one of the most important um, messages that I hope to just like offer today is these attachment styles are not a life sentence, right? Like they are malleable, right? Like the brain is plastic. There's something called neuroplasticity, and that's something. Essentially, what that means is the brain has the ability to build new neural pathways, so new ways of relating, new ways of engaging with the outside world, new ways of learning how to connect with self, and but when it comes to this, right, in the attachment world, there's this psychotherapist named Diane Poole Heller, and she has this really brilliant quote: "We are injured in relationship, and we heal in relationship." Right. So it takes reparative, healing, loving, connective relationships that offer the repair to someone that has insecure attachment.
So you talked about you in your example, just right there. You talked about love and healing, um, and those types of feelings and those types of emotions. Making it a little bit personal, what has your family, your friends, um, and you did talk about this in your introduction, talking about the divorce. But what has those types of relationships, platonic, non-platonic, what has it taught you about love? What has it taught you about healing? Um, how have you
Yeah.
grown in that space?
Yeah. It's a great question. I will say that, if I were to think about, I'm really grateful for this question, because I think one of the things that's really important when it comes to greater healing and our ability to, transform, these issues and not allow them to keep us again like in cycles of pain and suffering with one another, is to talk about it, right? And so when it comes to my personal story, I was raised by two amazing folks who were born in the 40s, so they're part of the silent generation. My dad was someone that he lost his mother in childbirth. He was in Vietnam. My mother was raised by a single mother. They've had a lot of things that happened to them that were traumatic. And if I were going to put that aside for a few moments, they also like were able to survive Jim Crow. My dad was also in Vietnam. They were also able to survive all of these different adversities to give me enough love to nurture me to be where I am today. And there were there was also a lot of pain, that they experienced. And they didn't have the type of resources, the understanding to the things that we have today. And so there was this history, this legacy of transmitting or inflicting their suffering onto to us as their children. And I would say that the ways that that had shaped me was the fact that like I had grown up to be more of a to have insecure attachment, to be more anxious, like anxiously attached. And the reason why I really love this model is from my own experiences, I have learned that things can change, right? It does take the power of healing relationships, being able to disrupt some of the patterns that often lead you to relationships that can be very painful and harmful to you, and learning how to build different understanding of self, to build different boundaries, through learning how your brain works, learning about like what my emotional intimacy needs are, and being able to rework and rewire my own nervous system through like how I relate and how I talk to myself. So there's many different levels. There's the social level, right, of being able to form and forge healthier bonds with folks. And there's also that level of being able to do the inner work, right? Like being able to examine, interrogate your history, understand your patterns in relationships, understand how you talk to yourself, understand the cultural and societal influences that also shape how you show up in relationships, and like what you think love is and what love's supposed to be. Think about some of the ancestral, pains and stories that you may have, and then also, what's there that can aid your healing. And so it's definitely a holistic approach when it comes to how you heal from insecure attachment. And it is something that first is done in reparative relationships.
So how has that journey been for you? I guess figuring out for yourself what's the best way to heal for yourself. Was that something that took a lot of trial and error? Was it something that was like, kind of dipping your foot in the water to see if it's cold or not? Like,
Yeah,
or
it's
did you
like
just...
it's like all of that. It's all of that. But I will say that the relationship that has taught me most about secure attachment is the relationship I have with my daughter. And yeah, it's that relationship that has taught me how to endure with someone, that teaches me how to persevere, how to be with someone through the good and the bad, right? Like to have someone that you can like cuddle with. We have this show that we love. It's called Izzy's World of Koalas, and we learned through that show that koalas, the mother and the baby koala, they spend a lot of time cuddling, and we're like, oh, that's what we do. So we're koalas, and so that is like such a great essence of like our bond, and it has helped me not only see the ways that it supports her, but it has also really supported like my nervous system to be able to experience what like soothing and that co-regulation I was talking about, and that care that helps bring me back to myself. But just the ability to walk alongside someone and to develop deeper intimacy and understanding, and really going through, again, sometimes the hard stuff in life, and learning how to do that with someone has been something that has really been a guide for all my other relationships, as I've learned how to heal myself to feel like more secure, more grounded in who I am. That relationship has taught me a lot about loving myself, what it means to be in healthy relationships. So I would say that first and foremost has been paramount.
So do you believe that because it has a paramount effect on you, was that type of attachment something that you were longing for growing up?
I think so, yeah. Like one of the things that is really important about discovering your attachment, style, your patterns, is to understand your needs for intimacy, right? Like, and I'm a person that values and longs for, deep intimacy, deep connection, closeness. And so it was something that I was able to develop and like co-create with my daughter, and that has been a place of like suffering when I was looking for that in sources that were unable to give it for whatever reason, and also just looking for outside of myself too.
So, what would you give couples who have, like we talked about the different attachment styles. What advice would you give couples, friends, partners of some sort? If they have different types of attachment styles, how do they navigate that? Um, do you feel as though two of the same attachment styles can be in harmony together, or is a secure foundation needed for the other attachment styles that we discussed? Like, is that foundation needed, or can two avoid it, live in harmony?
It all depends on what your definition of harmony is, right? Like, so that's, subjective, and that's a great question. And it also goes back to the science of, this, the attachment styles are based on how our brains work, and our brains are plastic, our brains can change. And so therefore, if I had anxious attachment style and you had avoidant, like we could find our way with the consciousness and awareness of, hey, we have these things going on, and we want to work towards greater harmony. We want to work towards security. We want to work towards getting to understand each other. And as long as that's in the awareness of the relationship, then it's possible, right? And with each person doing their own work of understanding, again, how their brain works, like what their needs for intimacy are, what their boundaries are, and how long as they can effectively and authentically communicate that with one another, then they can work towards that place of security. And there's many different tools that can help support people on that journey to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Um, so what are the tools that you suggest?
Um, so I'm gonna go back to the emphasis on it takes all of us, that we need each other to survive. And with that, I often think about when I was a kid. I don't know, and it always comes back up for me, like in my psyche. It is just one of those things that continues to just recycle itself. But Jurassic Park, and I'm going somewhere with this. Jurassic Park, 1993, the original film. And it's been a minute since I've seen it, so like I can't remember like all the details. But essentially, Lex, the child, the girl in the movie. Have you seen it?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. But she and her brother were left stranded, right, by the guy that they were with. And the T-Rex had gotten hold of their car and had did whatever, and she was able to come out, and that's when she ran into, or she fell out and she ran into Dr. Grant. And, though I would imagine it was somewhere in the back of her psyche of like, there's a T-Rex that just had our car and I'm terrified by that. The thing that she was most stuck on was the fact that she was left, right? Like she kept saying, he left us. He left us. Like when Dr. Grant found her, and she was in this state of shock, in this state of trauma, and all that she could really focus on was the act of abandonment and being left. And what I think is so powerful about that scene is like he grabs hold of her, he looks her in her eyes, like he's holding her securely. He is giving her this stabilizing energy, and he says, "But that's not what I'm going to do." And that was a beautiful depiction of how we can be active participants in the repair of each other's like pains and hurts and wounds, right? Like I have experienced abandonment. They experience abandonment. And the things that have like lifted me, have grounded me, that have allowed me to find the security within myself have been, again, those reparative relationships after something that was deeply traumatic. And so the very first thing is us just understanding that it takes all of us to to do this type of work, right? And to understand like what's at stake. I think that we as a society could invest more in where we place our dollars, right? Like instead of putting it into the system that incarcerates people, what if we took those dollars and invested it in social emotional learning, like, where we could build empathy, more empathy and kindness and understanding for young children? Like, what if we put it in programs for conflict resolution to help people with learning how to regulate their emotions through expressive arts? Have trainings for teachers and for all systems to be trauma informed and to be care informed and to understand these principles of attachment, right? So I think it is a collective communal response. Like that's the very first thing when it comes to being able to rework insecurity within us, on a collective level. And again, it does take the individual approach. So some of the tools, the very first tool is just learning what your attachment style is. And I will provide some quizzes that can help with that. The next step would be, really interrogating like, okay, like what is what has my upbringing looked like? What are some of my defense mechanisms? Like really get just a greater understanding of self and like, how do I show up in relationships? Like, what are my needs? What are my values? And then being able to learn how to work with the nervous system. The attachment system it coordinates with the autonomic nervous system, which is our fight or flight system, right? It's the system that puts us in high alert, or it can make us feel calm, or it can make us feel really shut down. And so the more that I'm understanding, like when I'm triggered, when I'm feeling activated, when I'm feeling dysregulated, I can take tools to help me come back to a place of calm, or to take care of myself when I'm feeling unwell. And that also can help with building greater security within ourselves. And so it's definitely this holistic approach of how we're able to build security.
So thank you so much. No. Thank you. Seriously, thank you. That was good. That
I
was
don't
good.
let me know if you have any questions with, if things feel clear or not.
Well, I do have one.
Yeah.
So talking about adversity,
Mm-hmm.
suffering, how can someone turn that into infinite power and possibility? Like, how could we take something that has the power to knock us off of our feet permanently in life and find some wherewithal within us to rise up and use that as fuel to take over?
To take over.
I mean, respectively, people have
I feel you.
different um, definitions of. I'm just
Yeah,
to level
totally.
up.
To level up, yes. I would say first and foremost is to understand that you are not what happened to you. You're not the suffering that you feel. You're not the suffering that your body displays. Like you are not your past. You're not that thing that pains you, right? So it's first and foremost having that type of understanding. Secondly is to understand that life is a collection of experiences rooted in joy and pain. And though, that can feel like a lot at times, because it is, these are the things that also guide us to what sets our spirit free, right? Like our joy and our pain. And so when you can understand that, you are led to the things that liberate you. And then from there, you, with time, with healing through, applying these tools that we're talking about that can help with self-regulation, that can help with reworking how you talk to yourself. But with time and with healing, you can learn how to lead a life that is true to your heart's desires, and essentially like create that life that you desire, that is not confined and dictated by these things that have caused you pain in the past.
And this is a continuous
This is
journey.
continuous for sure.
Ups and downs, everything.
It's that whole thing of like, it's constant. It's the evolution process that I talked about earlier. It's that revolution that is constantly happening. But yes, it is something that is not static, but is always coming and presenting itself those opportunities to grow and to really follow like what our heart needs.
Well, Joy, this was wonderful. And everything that you talked about when it came to attachment theory, trauma bonding, healing and love, I I benefited from it. I definitely learned from it. I know that you said that you wanted to read a
Oh,
poem.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
So I also want to say that, like, we are here at Earthseed, and Earthseed, you were talking about what are the ways that, like, I have learned to heal myself. And Earthseed, I was talking about the communal piece that takes all of us. This has been a community that has welcomed myself and my daughter into this space, and we have been just really fortunate to be a part of, like, this beautiful land and space. And from the people to being out here on the land, which is very sacred, it has been part of that medicine and of, like, those resources that has helped support my healing journey. So I just
why is
wanted
it
to.
sacred?
It is sacred because of the history. There's history of, like, folks who, some indigenous ancestors, and also folks who were enslaved, and just, like, the love and the care that has been brought into, like, poured into this community, into this land. And it's also a sanctuary for BIPOC folks.
I'm sorry?
It's a sanctuary for BIPOC folks.
What's that?
So it is for Black, Indigenous people of color. It's a safe haven for folks to come, like, in the midst of this world and how it can feel like, like we don't belong often. Like, this is a place of belonging for us.
Oh, that's an acronym.
Yes, BIPOC.
BIPOC.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I never heard it before.
Yeah. Thank you for, yes. And thank you, because not everyone has heard of it, and I shouldn't assume. And so another thing is, like, I also offer something called ecotherapy here. I was talking about the earth-based healing. And so folks come here, and I look at the land, the earth, as, it's Mother Earth, right? And so we talk about co-regulation. This is a practice that can help people who have a lot of activation, stress in their nervous systems, come back to themselves and feel the co-regulation with the earth. And so that's, like, grounding, like putting your feet, like, on the soil, on the earth. That can be just feeling the rays of the sun. That can be feeling the winds. That can just be laying out and resting. But these are different. And then also orienting to other points of connection that don't live in the human realm, right? And so, like, connecting with the animal world, the plant world, and so on. And so this also has been a really powerful way to help people heal from trauma and attachment trauma.
As far as the environment is concerned, is it more fluid to heal in a mountainous, greeny, grassy area or beach? Does it not matter?
I would say
Or woody?
it does not matter, and also some people can have, based off of their experiences, maybe some scary, traumatic, negative associations to certain environments. And so, to each his own, like, to finding, like, what that safe place feels like when it comes to nature, because it can be kind of a charged, complicated thing, like any relationship, right? But being out in nature does help bring the body back into a state of balance. So, yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, please.
So I just wanted to just offer this as just a last reflection, invitation to you, to those listening, about love, the word of the day. So the question I just want to invite people to consider: how can we expand our ideas about love to, yes, hold the value of romantic relationships, and not to just limit our lives to pursue just that of one person or a romantic relationship, but to consider the value and richness of expansive love, where we find deep and intimate connections with our friends, with our family, chosen family, with the children in our lives, and with the earth. So the question is, how can I be more intentional about love, to remember it is a verb and requires attention and action? So love, the word of the day. Love as the balm, the equalizer, the peacemaker, the North Star. Salvation, reckoning, it allows us to be free. Love remembers your divinity through teaching me about mine. It has been my poison and my elixir. It has been my heaven and my hell. It's been my joy and my pain. Love is the unifying force of the universe. I've witnessed how it can move. I have felt its power. Love covers a multitude of sins. And there is nothing more that would save us from ourselves now than love. Love as in that unconditional, universal kind of love. Love as in that love of self, for others and the earth. The love that heals, the love that is patient and kind, redemptive love. That deeply rooted in justice kind of love. This is what saves us. This is what liberates us. This is how we are made whole. Are you ready to join love?
Wow, you wrote that. Is that fresh? Is that new?
Yeah.
Do you write poems regularly? Frequently?
I write. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you said that you're an author.
Yeah. Author soon. Yes.
Well, hey, speaking into existence.
Receive it. Yes. But yeah, thank you for this opportunity. And that's the invitation. I'm hoping that, there was one thing that will land with someone, and when it comes to how they can use attachment theory as a gateway to love. And so, are you ready to join love?
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank
It was
you.
a pleasure. I loved it. Thank you so much. We finally made it to the end of today's episode. I hope you enjoyed learning more about attachment theory, trauma bonding, healing, and love. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next episode.